call it whatever you want, just like what we call over here KB. And then equals new, just like on the scanner. And then like on the scanner, you call again the name of the class. And then over here, I'm passing parameters. I'm passing a 3.0 and a 4.0. Just like what we're doing here, in this class, you're calling a method. Over there, I'm passing parameters to that particular class. Same idea. Okay, so now what happens, I have an object here called house1kitchen. Right? And I'm saying, can someone tell me what this line does? Please? Yes.
It sets total equal to the result of the area.
Exactly. So I'm calling this method. This is exactly the same way we've been working with methods up to now. Okay? So even though it's a class, but it's exactly the same idea. So you're calling, let's say, a method, but in this case we're actually calling the object there. And inside that object, I put a period here, and I'm saying, get me a method called getArea that is inside this guy. Do whatever it needs to do, and then the return of that, I want to put it right here on the total. So it's exactly like we've been doing the methods. There's no difference whatsoever, okay? And then I go ahead and I say A, the kitchen one area is this one. And that's the end of it. Now, why do I have this line here? This line does exactly the same thing that these two guys do. So I'm showing this so that you can see that you can either go the long way that way, or you can do those two in one line at all, or just one line. So what I'm doing here is I'm saying, okay, I'm printing the same thing here. I put an A here and a B here so that you can see the different lines. And instead of creating the total there, I'm just calling from this method, I'm calling the area, and whatever this is equal to is going to print right there. That's a little bit tricky to understand sometimes. That's why I did it both ways. Okay. Obviously, the second line is more efficient than this one. First, because you don't have to create the double total. Second, you don't have to you don't have to create it, put that in memory, and then call it back over here. So this one is one-shot deal. Okay. So now we want to see how that happened. What's this stuff on the other side? We're going to take a look at the clone. The one that is called constructors with rectangle with constructors. That one is this program here. So the first thing that I want to mention here is that from day one, I always say that you have to have a Java program, you create a class. And inside the class you have to have a main. Well, it's half true. Okay, to the program that we're looking at, the program that is driving the whole system has to have a main. These ones don't need a main. And you cannot put a main in there, okay? So this class, this clone here, does not have a main. This clone is full of methods. That's all it has, methods. And these methods, besides the methods, they're also called constructors. So on these classes we have three things. One is are the constructors. I'll tell you exactly what they are. And you can have as many constructors as you want. And then you have methods. The methods that you need are divided into two classes, okay? The first one I call mutators. Why did they call them mutators? The guy must have been drunk when he did that. Because what they do is they set values. And the actually called setters. So if I had done this and instead of mutators, I would have called them setters because that's exactly what they do. Now you can call them whatever you want, but by agreement, formal agreement, everybody calls it set and then whatever you want to set it. Set the length, set the height, set the width, set the salary, set whatever. But once you see a method called set, you know that your is a mutator. You're setting values to it. So if you had sets, what else do you get? What else do you have? The gets, exactly. So the other half of the coin are called gets. Okay, and this actually, the actual name that Java gives them, and instead of calling gets, they call them accessors. It was the same guy. He was still drunk when he named that. So, mutators, accessors, and the equivalent to sets and gets. So, what are the constructors? Can someone tell me what are they for? This is what gives the humongous power to this type of programming. Okay. What happens is that, let's assume in this case I need to do 4 kitchens, right? And on someone's, if we go back to the calling program, over here I'm passing a 30 and a 4, right? So these two are floats. Then I'm calling another kitchen with different values, and over here I have an integer and a float, right? Then I'm passing a float and an integer, and then I'm passing 2 integers, okay? So up to yesterday, or up to before this introduction of this, to do this we would have needed 4 different programs, right? Because we're passing 4 different types of data, okay? So what this one does, and that's the name of constructors, is that you create this particular class, not this one. This one here, we call it what? Rectangles with constructors, right? Now we have this that looks like a method, and it's also called the same way. Rectangles with constructors. If you do that on the programs we've seen up to now, the ones with the main, it's going to give you an error because you cannot have a method and a class with the same name. But yet over here we do. Now, what is different in this guy than compared to a regular method? There's a couple of things there that are different.
Not actually passing the numbers there.
No, you are passing numbers here.
No, you have the printer text right there.
You don't have either a static, and you don't have either the void, the int, the float. None of that. The only thing that is in common, and that's why it looks the same, is that you have the public command here. So it kind of looks the same, but they're not. You don't have, like I said, the return type of whether it's a static or private or what. And then over here, this guy is accepting 2 doubles. 1 double, 2 doubles. And by the way, you can accept as many variables as you want and any type. You can accept arrays, strings, characters, anything that you want to accept, you can accept it over here. Okay? So this constructor has 2 doubles, right? You can create classes without constructors, and when you do, it automatically, even though you don't see it, it automatically creates a constructor that accepts nothing. In other words, with parentheses, but without anything in it. Okay? All right, so this one, what it does, it accepts a double called len and another double called w. And now we go ahead and we say over here, and you can put anything you want here, by the way. But all I'm doing over here is I'm saying, okay, when someone calls this class and they send me 2 doubles, I want to get the variable length and make it equal to the length that I'm getting here. making the width equal to this guy. Alright. So where are these guys coming from? The length and the width.
Global variable set up top.
Yep. You see the first two lines up there? Alright. You see something different there than you usually are used to? Private. We always up to now we have put publics, right? And public means that everybody can see it. Private over here is because we don't want any program calling this program to have access to the length and the width. We inside this class are the only ones that have access to that. We don't want anybody else to see it. That's why we make it private. So if you were doing something like interest rate calculations and you don't want anybody else to modify the interest rate, then you put it as a private inside your program. So no one has access to it. Okay? So over here what we're doing is when we accept this data, we go ahead and assign it to the private variables. Okay? Now we have another one, looks exactly the same as this guy. But what is the difference between this guy and this guy? What you're accepting. This one is accepting an integer and a double. Then we have another one here. That is accepting double and an integer, and this guy is accepting two integers. Right? Okay. So we got to the point that I'm waiting for an answer for a question because the question is right in there. So I'll jump out over that question, and now we get the regular methods. So on top what we have was the constructor. So in reality what we did was we created 4 programs out of 1. 4 different programs that are accepting 4 different types of data inside one program. So now these are regular methods. You notice up there it says mutators, sets. So this one I call it set length, because that's what people are used to, set and then gets. And this one is only accepting one guy called length. Right? It's a method, it's not a constructor. And then I'm saying, okay, when someone asks me for the length, to set the length, I'm going to accept whatever they send me, and I'm going to assign that value to the private length. So inside now, no one can see it, but we have length. Maybe I want to put, if I'm doing construction and I'm buying materials, so they tell me you need 10 feet of plywood. So I say, well, maybe I want to buy 10% more just in case. So maybe the length over here, I put length times 0.10. Right? So the guy who's asking for the material, they don't know. So I'm going to order something that is a little bit higher than they actually ordered me just in case for waste and stuff like that. So we have another one called width. We're doing the same thing. Again, this is a method that someone can access from the outside. And when they send me a W, I assign that to the width. Okay? So those two are the examples of the mutators. And you can